Hey, all you veterans out there, how you doing tonight? Hope everything's going good with your uh, upcoming holidays, getting everything ready. I know I've been busy. Monday, went with the Cleveland Cavaliers to the VA hospital in Cleveland, and we passed out cookies and T-shirts and Christmas cards to all the patients and other veterans that were happened to be there, and turned out to be a good day. But as you can see, I got my good friend Dave Crete back on the show tonight. We're going to talk about some updates, so let's get this show on the road, shall we? All right, let's get that off here real quick. There we go. Hi, Dave. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Tim.
Yeah, I'm still alive.
Wait a minute.
Still kicking. Yeah, it has.
When did I see you last? Was it, what were we, September?
Yeah, it was in Vegas.
Yeah, you came out for our event.
Yes.
It was great. That event actually turned out really, really well.
Yeah, it did.
It was great having you
It was
there.
a really good event. Too bad the hotel was full of bugs.
Yeah.
Man, I'll never stay at the Sahara ever again. And that was nasty.
Yeah, it used to be a great place, but
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I couldn't believe how empty the casinos were too, man.
Yeah, the North Strip is going through a little bit of a revitalization. Last night or this morning, midnight, 12 a.m., a new strip hotel opened, and it's right next to the Sahara, and it's one of the largest hotels in the world, the Fontainebleau. So it'll be interesting to see what that does, because Sahara has kind of been stranded out there on the north end of the strip.
Yep.
Because all the development went south, and so I wish it well. That's where my wife and I had our reception and where we stayed before we took off on our honeymoon and stuff. So I want to see it do well, but it needs help.
Yeah, it does. But I thought they could have treated me a little bit better after all those cockroaches and everything in my room. But hey, it is what it is. But we're not here to talk about the Sahara or Las Vegas. We're here to talk about your group, the Invisible Enemy, and stuff that's been going on. So let's give our viewers a little background about why your organization started to begin with.
Well, the story starts, a bunch of our guys, you've gotten to know them.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2013, we started having reunions, but they hadn't found me on Facebook yet. So I didn't partake in that one. And that was back at our old chief, who's since passed, at his house. And I get a Facebook message one day from a guy that was actually in my wife and I's wedding. And he asked, my old name was Cujo. And he goes, "Is this Cujo?" And I replied back that it was, and I saw who it was, and we started chatting. And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "We've got a 4461st support group page, and for the cops, and we just had a reunion, and maybe the next reunion you can make it." Well, the next reunion ends up being at my house here in Vegas, and Randy Groves, whom also that was one of the cops with us, he and a few others, we were sitting in my yard, my house. And, it's the first day of the reunion. Not everybody's in town yet. We're just sitting back there drinking beer and talking and reminiscing, because all these guys show up and I hadn't seen any of them since the 80s. So it was really great. And Randy brought up, he asked a question. He goes, "Does anybody else have any tumors?" And I popped up and I said, "What do you mean tumors?" And he goes, "I've got these lumps, and I've got them in my arm. I've got one in my chest. I got a few of these, but I was quizzing them because that's something I know a little bit about." I said, "I've got all this, and I got this and this." I said, "But I had one like the size of a grapefruit in my back." And he goes, "Yeah, I got one in my back." I said, "We didn't realize how big it was, but I finally had a surgeon remove it because it had grown. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was creating pressure in my back. What had happened, this thing between my shoulder blade and my rib cage. So there was this constant pressure. If I leaned back, it would hurt." And he goes, "Yeah, same thing." And I said, you need to go get it checked out. And there was 8 of us at the time. We're all sitting in my backyard, and 6 of the 8 guys go, I have those. And I told them, I said, they're called lipomas. And, it's just fatty tumors, but I don't know if it's a special kind or whatever, but it's these fatty tumors called lipomas. And as I'm talking to him, I'm like, all right, there's 6 out of 8. What's the nexus? We all served on NTTR, Nevada Test and Training Range. Specifically, all of us are on the Tonopah Test Range, and which is one of the 2 bases that sits out on the range. There's the place everybody calls Area 51, and what most people don't realize when they're talking about that, there's really 2 bases. So I was at the one that's called Tonopah, and we understood there's a nether. And then one of the guys out of the 6 of us said we had tumors, and the 7th guy says, I don't, but my son was born with tumors. Well, my first son, who was conceived while we were out there, as you know, I think you met him.
Yes.
Was born with neurofibromatosis, which is, if you read the diagnosis, it's absolutely horrible. And his expectations, according to his doctors, were very low. He's done well for himself based on, the hand he was dealt. It created a tough life. And I got very interested when Rafael Meza said that his son was born with a problem. And so I started researching. This is 2014. And I spent the next 8 years researching, really, before I said anything. In like January, February of 2022, we were back in South Carolina because our chief master sergeant passed away. And he was the founder of our unit. And, especially all of us, he was our chief, and everybody respected him. And you were at least scared to death of him, if nothing else. And he died, and about 25 of us went back to his funeral from around the country. And I told the guys back then, I said, hey, look, some of you guys know, you may not know, since we started all these reunions, I've been researching what the health issues are associated, because by this time, by 2022, I've heard some people, talk to people, and everybody's got these various health issues. And the rate of which was fairly alarming. And the other thing that was alarming is how many of us had already passed away. I'm 58 today. We shouldn't all be dying off.
Right.
And it was getting to a point where all the research, all the answers I were getting, they all sucked. All the answers were bad. And I told everybody back at the chief's funeral, I said, I've been working on this, been researching it. All the answers suck. I'm not ready to go through it with everybody yet, but I'm going to be soon. And y'all need to listen to what I've found. So I go through this the rest of the year, and then the fall of 2022 is the next actual reunion. And again, it's here at my house, and it's over Veterans Day weekend. And we have about, I think, 33 guys come in town, or come from out of town. There's a couple of guys that were still here. And they came over, and I said, look, guys, I'm putting together a PowerPoint presentation. Y'all need to hear this. Believe me, don't believe me. You at least need to hear it. And we started having conversations here that night. And I said, everything that I say, everything that I'm going to say in this, I have a government document to back it up. It's not, the Kansas City, whatever newspaper that ran a little column on something. It's government document. What I, and us having knowledge of the area really gave it some insight, because we could understand what they were talking about in these articles, in these reports. So right after that, I get sick. One of my problems besides the lipomas is my lungs are shot, and I get bronchitis at least twice a year. It'll last for 2 months. I get pneumonia. I get different things. If somebody's got a cold, I'm getting sick. You know how it goes.
Yes.
And so everybody leaves town. I get sick. From November to the end of January, I've got bronchitis, and I was really pretty sick. So I didn't work on the presentation. As soon as I get better, I start working on it, and we plan Zooms, kind of like what we're doing here. And I told Mark Pennicus, whom you know, and
Yes.
Randy Groves again, and I said, hey guys, here's just a little piece of stuff. Tell me what you guys think. And this is before we did the whole thing. And they were shocked. And I said, all right. So we took it to our commander, Colonel Tegmeyer. And he was the COP commander, and we still communicate with him. He goes to our reunions and stuff. And and he's had some health issues and whatnot, but he's truly a wonderful man. And so I sent it to him, and he retired from the Air Force, and then he went to work from DOE with DOE, retired from DOE, writing reports about what do they call them? Old nuclear sites where stuff happened, legacy sites.
Yes.
Makes it sound better, I guess. And I said to him, and he was pretty shocked. So then we do a Zoom. It's like 90 minutes long. I give the presentation. Everybody's about falling on the floor. Everybody's wildly pissed off because the data was from the government. And I did 2 of those with the 61st. Then we opened it up to the other guys that were on the range between the 2 locations and said, you know, hey guys, what do you think? I think that we have an issue, and I think we have something we need to take to Congress, which you know about.
Yes.
And it real quickly became a thing. You know, it went from me doing this research for years and not telling anybody to it really blowing up. And then soon after, you and I had met. I can't remember how it was. We posted something. We got connected somehow over something. Yep. And we started talking. And that is what's happened in my life since March of not last year. Heck, we're still this year. March of this year. What, 9 months? My life's been flipped upside down. And there's been some pretty unique things that happened, but we started a charity. We have our 501c3. Tonight I have my board meeting with the Invisible Enemy. We've got a lot of stuff going on, which I'm going to talk about here, but that's kind of the genesis of where. And then we do a press release on April 9th. We're blessed. And you know, you've met some of these people again. We have a public relations marketing firm that signed on that does everything pro bono. And this is a big time professional company that makes me look smart and look good when we go out because, you know, we have everything's professionally done. And they did a press release. The first press release that went out was open in 50 different countries, and we paid us to put it out there. It's not like I knew where to send it. So we pay this service a couple $1,000. It goes out in 50 countries, and we got 54 million clicks over the next week, which was mind blowing. I was hoping we would get like, you know, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people. I don't know how this works.
Right.
And it goes nuts. And we're getting these analytics from this company that does this stuff, and everybody's just mind blown. And my phone, the day that the press release went out, it goes out Vegas time, 2 a.m. because that's 5 a.m. when the producers for the news show start showing up back on the East Coast. So by 4 a.m. Vegas time, my phone's ringing, and it's been ringing ever since. Yep. And now we've got, we're talking to people about, let's see, I got back from Chicago a few weeks ago. I was out there, met one of our other guys out there, and some interviews with CBS Chicago. They're going to run a multi-part series about us in Chicago and 15 other CBS markets. I did News Nation with them on a Sunday night. Natasha Zuves, who's the evening anchor on the weekends.
Yes. Yeah, I know Natasha.
Something else big is getting ready to come out about that. She asked that I not talk about it too much, but there's going to be something that's really significant that's going to happen next week, which is it's going to blow people's minds, I think, because it's going to be a national thing. You know, I've been on the radio all over. I've been on TV all over. I've been traveling to meet other organizations and people, and I'm actually in conversations with some folks. We talked to 3 different groups really about possibly there's a desire to do a full-length movie about the range, about what we've been through as far as the GI station out there, about the DOD. And it's every day it's something. In our little group that we started, now we've got over 1,000 members. I think we're about 1,100 members on our stuff, and we've got the contact information, and we're cross-reference everything. And we talk to congressmen. Some of them you've helped us hook up with. I've been to DC and talked to a bunch of people back there. And then we get to the point where our bill, I had to give a little bit because I was being stubborn, but our bill should be ready shortly to be introduced. My hope is February for logistics reasons right after the Super Bowl. But I think we're going to end up doing a couple of bills, I think. But the first bill is going to, and what bill is, and what our challenge has been all along is because we worked at a classified location. The Air Force officially, the DOD says we were never there.
Right.
Therefore, we were never exposed. And I show them the diagrams going, we had an area that was called Man Camp, right? That's where when we would fly to work, we would stay there for at least 4 days, typically, sometimes longer. And I start showing them on a map where 5 different nuclear tests took place, where there was the spread, atmospheric spread of plutonium-239. And one of the tests is 2 miles away from where we slept. And not only was the ground contaminated, so was the groundwater. There's still gamma radiation. There's the alpha particles that spread. And the other thing that we learned was when they would do these atmospheric testings, everybody knows and sees pictures about the mushroom cloud, the testing that took place back in the 50s and 60s. Well, the theory behind how do we protect Vegas from getting contaminated, which is a whole nother conversation, is we make sure the wind is coming from the south or southeast and blowing north-northwest, which means they blew it directly to where we worked. And all that fallout happened out there. And the whole area is really contaminated. And the problem that we had, none of us when we were up there knew. We even had a occupational health safety officer up there. And who's his job to make sure we were working in a safe environment, not like a OSHA, making sure not that we were about climbing the ladder right, but about where we work being safe. They never even told him. And he's now retired. He has his PhD in toxicology. And I told him more a few weeks ago than he even knew. And it's been wild, but we're getting traction. We're going to get our bill. And I truly believe, I've been involved in politics since 92. It's always about narrative, right? Yes. Who's got the better story? Mm-hmm. And which is sadly true, because sometimes it's not about right and wrong. It's about whose story sells the best.
Right.
And our story, and what I have challenged some of the folks that I've talked to, and I'm not going to put anybody last here, but some of the folks that I've talked to in DC, I've kind of used let's take Ukraine. My fight isn't whether or not we should be or not be involved in Ukraine. That's an argument that we can have. Mm-hmm. My argument is we got vets that are sick and dying, and our memorial list this morning hit 296. Our guys are dying. You recognize that we exist. You won't give our guys the benefits and medical care that they need, but we're spending billions upon billions of dollars over in Ukraine, which may be worthy. But I dare them to say that their narrative of spending money on all these overseas conflicts is more important than taking care of the guys that are sick and dying, when they knew before that we went there. And they literally did an analysis back in 1975 before they built the place I was at that said the juice is worth a squeeze. They said in there that the benefit to national security by keeping Tonopah Test Range going outweighed the future liabilities caused by the environmental contamination.
Yeah.
What do you say to that? We're the liability. Right. You got to take care of our guys. Our kids have birth defects. Our wives have miscarriages.
Yep.
And they're like, that's all right. Sorry, brother.
Oh, that's all right. It's like when I was advocating for the PACT Act. I go into a congressman's or senator's office, and the first thing they say is, this costs too much. Sorry, we can't help you. This costs too much. And I'm like, wait a minute. You sent me off to war. You promised to take care of me if I came back injured or broken. our spouses were having miscarriages as well, stillborn babies, the whole 9 yards. So it passed on to our family members as well, and they're going to sit there and say, "This costs too much."
Yeah.
Oh man, did that piss me off?
Well, and when I had that conversation with them, so there's something called EOIPA, EEOICPA,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a bill that was passed. President Clinton signed it in 2000. That for all the nuclear workers, they get, if they're sick, they get lifetime medical help for their issues, and they get a check anywhere from $150,000 to $400,000 a person, and to help them with the issues that they're dealing with. And I said, that was a group you paid 100, and I think it's 133,000 people claims,
Yeah.
medical claims and financial claims. We're in no universe anywhere near that. But I was a cop. The guys that got the benefits already are the guys that built our hangars that I guarded, that I stood next to in the chow hall, that cooked the food for us in the chow hall. They're all good. But Department of Defense says, well, Department of Defense has never been stationed on the range. They're the only ones that thinks that. You know, as soon as you tell somebody Area 51 or Groom Lake or Tonopah or these places, everybody's curious what goes on. And I get that, but it's no mystery that we were there. The mystery is what all has taken place out there. And they said, no, you guys weren't there. You can't have any benefits. And we get guys like the first guy that I know died was one of my supervisors. He died in 1988. Catastrophic heart attack, drops dead, which is a common thread throughout some of our folks with just no known reason. They just drop dead. And since it wasn't service connected, there's no DIC benefits for the family. There's nothing for them. It's not service connected. You're not getting any help. Sorry. You know, and in that case, for Dan Traxler, he had a wife and he had 2 little boys, like 7 and 9 years old, something like that, when he passed. And the government goes, not us. So that's what we're fighting.
Yes.
And the first bill that's going to come out is they have to acknowledge our existence and make our issues presumptive on the contamination. Because unlike most other issues where we have some of these contaminations, like radiation contamination, it's plutonium or it's uranium. We have 6 different radioactive materials that were used out there. There's nowhere else in the world you could suck up that amount of contamination, plus all the other stuff, because it's been a bombing range since World War II. There's been conventional chemical explosives dropped all over the place for, I don't know what now, 80 years?
At least.
You know? And that's where we worked. We did cool kid stuff, no question. But, you know, on that memorial page, everybody asks, and I don't know, this is purely anecdotal, but I try to find out as often as I can, what was the approximate age that died? The age of our guys dying is in their mid-60s. I don't think that's normal.
No. Nope.
You know, a guy died the other day.
That's around
61 years old.
Yeah, that's around the same average age of Desert Storm veterans dying from the illnesses we got.
So they'll take care of 130,000 civilians, but the 5,000 of us, you're all on your own.
Right. Now,
I'll fight that fight.
Now, I just want to let our audience know, because we got a pretty sizable audience tonight. The chat is open, so if you have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll get them on the show. And the way you and I met was, there was a lady from my hometown. I grew up in Huron, Ohio, right on the shores of Lake Erie.
Yeah.
And I wrote a book with 3 other advocates who advocated for the PACT Act, and she happened to buy the book and read it. Her brother was stationed with you all. And somehow she was able to get contact information for you. And she says, Tim, I think you and this Dave Crete should talk and see what you can do to help him out. So that's how we met, was through that lady.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm glad she introduced us. because not only have we been able to help each other out, but I think we're becoming very strong friends and brothers. And a lot of your group too, man. Are fantastic people.
We're all fighting the same fight.
Yes, it's the same fight. Yours
and
is
it's
a little
the
bit
right fight.
Yes, yours is a little bit different than ours because the DOD denies that you even exist. The DOD denies that we ever got exposed.
Yeah.
They made a mistake with us, though. They sent letters out to, 50,000 Marines and Army guys, saying, men and women, saying that they were exposed to sarin and or mustard gas. They also wrote a document stating that they believe that the oil well fires became a biological weapon because of what Iraq said. So we were once, we still had to prove that we were sick because of that. And they came up with reasons why we weren't sick from those elements. But that's why we had to go to fight in DC.
But damn well they wouldn't go breathe the stuff you had to breathe.
Right.
If it's so harmless, why don't they go take a big whiff of a burning oil?
Yep. Yeah, got another. Well, let me show Jeff's comment again real quick for everybody here. Jeff Tessman, thanks for representing us. And I know that's for you, Dave. And then here's some more from Joe Simon. Yes.
He's just nuts.
Yeah. I remember Joe.
He goes all the way back to tech school with me, so he knows the truth.
And then Catherine, I believe it's his wife.
She is. She's the secretary for the Invisible Enemy.
Matter of fact, I think I sat with both of them at your fundraiser event.
Yeah.
Yes. And matter of fact, thanks for reminding me, Catherine. I have a ticker here too that'll flash on the bottom here.
Yeah.
This is the motto, people. Yep.
That's hashtag why we fight. Hashtag we will win.
Yes. Now, true, ours was a little bit different because, well, one thing that was in our favor because the burn pits are illegal here in the States and have been for decades, a couple decades at least. But yet we were still burning trash over during the war. There's still burn pits, believe it or not.
I believe it.
Yeah, there's still one, I believe, in Kuwait and they got several in Syria right now. And they need to get rid of those. Period. But the thing that gets me is they couldn't figure out a way to put it on your DD-214 to where you were able to get VA healthcare without saying, well, the bases are secret, so obviously these guys don't exist. Well, obviously you do. You're sitting right in front of me. They know you exist. They just don't want to take care of us. That's all. And it's really starting to tick me off because not only are you folks fighting for healthcare, people at Red Hill in Hawaii are going through the same thing. But they do exist, and the DOD says, yeah, the leak happened, but it didn't make anybody sick. And then I'm starting to get all these people emailing me saying, hey, I'm stationed out at Edwards Air Force Base in California, and they tell us we can't drink the water here. We have to buy bottled water. They tell us it's okay to bathe in, but we can't drink or cook with it. Nellis Air Force Base, Fort Hood, Fort Dix. These are still active bases that are contaminated, and the DOD is still sending people there.
Well, bro, that's why I think they deny we exist.
Yeah.
That airplane flies up every day still. And the outcome for them, people say, well, it's been a while. You guys haven't been up there for a minute. Well, the half-life of plutonium-239 is 24,110 years plus or minus 30.
Yes.
It's going to be around longer than you and I are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, like I said, that's just one of several that have come out. I want to acknowledge Wes Wyrick was one of our officers. He was one of our bosses. He just commented.
Mm-hmm.
And he commented about Brigadier General Tony Tolan, who was one of the bosses uprange. He was our wing commander for a while. And Colonel Wyrick says that he passed away as of a heart attack. And and that's what's crazy. This is an ongoing problem. 4 of our 6 wing commanders have passed away from there. And it's amazing. The first time, I went up there as an E3 right out of tech school. I was young and dumb, and I was nobody. And the only thing that's changed is I'm no longer young. But at first, some of the guys that I talked to, well, maybe it was, the officers did this or whatever. And I'm like, they were up there with us. Mm-hmm. We had an all ranks bar, an all ranks chow hall. We weren't that big a group. We were up there every day. And the truth is, when I started doing my research, I don't want to sound like a scientist, like I had some real theory, like I had a working theory. My assumption, though, was that it was the cops that had it the worst, because we're the ding-dongs out crawling around out in the dirt. We're out at the firing range. When something would happen off base, we're off running around and kicking up dust in our trucks and doing what we do, make sure everybody else could do what they do. And what I've learned is it really isn't us. It was guys like Colonel Wyrick and our pilots that were uprange, who have so many different issues, our mechanics who are exposed to so many different things. I really, really thought it was a cop thing. Even when I did the first Zoom calls, if you will, with the cops, I really thought us. And then the more and more I talked to other people, not only was it not us as the cops being the only ones affected, but the pilots and the mechanics and stuff, truly, I believe they're worse off than we are. And, I looked at them as, well, they worked inside a big metal structure, the pilots would fly up and fly our resources and do what they do. But, they're on 18 inches of concrete inside steel shelters when they're up there. Well, they couldn't have it worse. And man, I was so wrong.
Well,
it's really sad. It's really amazing how you can see a group of guys suffer so much that did so much. And it bothers me.
Now, I just went to Cleveland VA Hospital along with the staff members from the Cleveland Cavaliers to hand out Christmas.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Cheer and everything.
I was jelly.
It's great. But there's in the basement. Now they call it the basement, even though they have access to get outside and everything. It's their spinal cord injury or their permanent residence for patients that are permanently residents at the hospital.
Really?
90% of them are Desert Storm veterans. I found out Monday. And some of them are still fighting to get service connection. And I'm like, did they even tell you guys about the PACT Act? No, but you're supposed to. So we got some people educated, so hopefully they get some better care now that you're going to get some service connection and everything added on. But it's here, I thought it was just going to be, well, when you went back stating that you were doing research, when I started 30 years ago, we didn't have home computers. We didn't have social media. We didn't have chat rooms online. We didn't have podcasts. And the way I was getting my information was my dad was taking me from hospital to hospital trying to figure out why I was sick. So sitting there, we're talking to other veterans and their family members, and we're finally starting to put two together, two this and that together. And this guy says, "Hey, we blew up this range, and our chemical detectors were going crazy, and they told us to ignore it. We didn't have to put on our chem suits." Then this guy says, "Hey, I don't know if y'all saw the movie Jarhead, in that part where that unit was digging holes to sleep in the middle of the oil wells fires, and the oil's draining down on them. One of those guys actually was that I talked to was actually in that unit in real life, and
Oh,
he says, "Man, we were right there in the middle of those oil well fires. We were breathing. They didn't give us no gas mask or anything. They gave us goggles to protect our eyes. That was it. They were tearing up their t-shirts and everything to wrap around their mouths to try to keep breathing that oil into them. They, so that's how we did our research, is talking to each other and putting two and two together, saying, yeah, well, we're burning all this trash right next to our unit, but we're not allowed to do it here." So that's how our research was. And finally, when we started getting the, figuring out how to use a computer and everything, we were finally able to start building up some momentum. And thank God for Burn Pits 360 and asked us to come advocate with them. Otherwise, we'd still be fighting, because Senate and the House didn't want to put Gulf War in the PACT Act to begin with. They still wanted us to go and suffer, but I understand, what you went through with the research you did, because it's so hard and it's so emotional. I know it had to hit you hard right in the heart, hearing all the stories from your fellow comrades.
no, it's terrible. This is the hardest thing I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
I get up and go to work each day, but when I go to work, I sell real estate. I don't get a widow calling me up, or somebody like went and met with a lady, I don't know, a month or month and a half ago through Virginia that you met that runs the public relations company. She got a
Mm-hmm.
call and she says, "You need to come meet this lady. I'm going to set up a meeting." Great. So my wife and Eileen and I went down and we met with her. We get there and find out she's our age, close to my age. She's 50 anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Her grandfather, mother, and father all worked up range and all died. All died of cancer,
Mm-hmm.
the same cancers. And she's like, "I lost my whole family because of being up there." And she has health issues. And one of her complaints was, we brought our stuff home because we didn't do our laundry up there, especially me. I'm a 19, 20-year-old guy. I'm not doing my laundry. I put it in my A3 bag and dragged that crap home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my girlfriend and then became my wife, she would do my laundry for me when I get home because we get off Graves. I want to go to bed. And she would do that. And everybody else had the same type of support at home. And literally, this lady, her duty was to do the laundry for the rest of the family because they were day commuters. So they have super long, 15-hour days. So she did all the laundry for everybody. And so now she's dealing with cancer. And her kids have issues. But you get these phone calls. You get this one guy that we have here in town who is DOD, civilian, but DOD, and he was up there. And I get a call and I call this guy back and I'm talking to him, and it's like you almost get like hard when you deal with folks, but you learn to ask questions. I'm sitting there, I'm talking to some guy and he's super hard to understand. The guy, like the folks, the smokers, and they have the little voice box.
Yep.
And they
Mm-hmm.
talk funny, right? I don't know what you
Yes.
call it, but you know what I'm talking about. This guy was that and then some. And so I asked him, like, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "Oh, well, it started with the bone marrow cancer and it went to this cancer. By the time it's done, it was like 5 different cancers. they had to. He says he has one vocal cord left. Doc, I don't know how that works, but I can tell you he can't talk. He can't talk for crap because of what's happened. And then he said that the cancer got in his tongue. They had to remove 80% of his tongue. From all the treatments, all of his teeth fell out. He's got all these different problems. And so I asked him, and you know, I was with my attorney the other day. We were talking about this. We've also been blessed. I have an attorney who charges the invisible enemy $1 an hour. And awesome. And so I'm sitting there, I'm talking to her about this. And I said, you know, I kind of felt like a jerk. And she goes, why? I said, because I asked him, I said, outside of all that, how you doing? How's your day to day? And she's like, you're a jerk. Why would you ask somebody who's been through all that question? I said, because I think it's a valid question.
It's very valid.
How you doing on your day to day?
Yes.
And the dude, and here's perspective. The guy goes, I'm great. I'm alive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm far better than a whole lot of our brothers and sisters that served up there. I'm like, okay, you're better. And he goes, yeah. He goes, you know, the only tough part that I go through now, he goes, you know what a feeding tube is? I do.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, yeah, I've been living on a feeding tube for the last 3.5 years. And he pulls out a box of like a prescription Ensure. And he goes, I have 5 or 6 days I live on for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, and you're telling me you're great. And I bitch about a whole lot less.
Same here.
You know?
Yep.
I mean, what do you say to that guy? What do you say to the lady who says, yeah, I lost my mom, dad, and grandfather? Or that, or, you know, I'm on my 4th cancer. I've been stage 4. One lady that I talk to sometimes, she's like, yeah, I've been stage 4 now 4 times. I just got really shitty lungs and a bunch of lumps and a couple other little things, you know.
Curtis Hosteller just stated something that I say every day. I'm still alive.
Oh yeah. You know,
a lot of your people don't know too much about me. Due to my exposure during the Gulf War, I am terminally ill. So there's days where I can't even get out of bed. There's days where I'm on oxygen. There's days where I'm such a mess, my family can't deal with me for the day. So for me to say I'm still alive, that's a good thing. And for Dave to ask those questions, hey, how you doing day to day? Those are legit questions. Those are questions I hope people aren't afraid to ask me. And I just hope they're not afraid to get the answers that I give sometimes. So,
yeah.
Oh, I got a little news for you too.
You're pregnant.
No. I finally got a toxicology test done through the VA.
Really?
Yeah.
What did they say?
And I tested positive for uranium.
Outstanding.
Yes. So for 30
How the hell
years,
did you get that in the Gulf?
For 30 years fighting to get that done, I finally get it done, and it proved everything. They finally did some. They sent me some questionnaire about the Gulf War, and I filled it out, sent it in, and 3 days later, they called me up at home and says, hey, we need you to come and get this toxicology testing done. You might have been exposed to uranium and everything. I says, I know I was. I've been trying to tell you this for 30 freaking years. So they tested me and came back positive. Thank God the limits are, the amount's low, but still it's higher than it should be. So
yeah. What amount's okay? None.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. None. It should be 0. And that's the kidney doctor I just went and saw the day after I got my results. He says, yeah, it should be 0. I don't know what they're trying to tell you, that safe limits and everything. It's not safe. Uranium's never safe. So,
there's an aquifer. We live in the desert, so aquifers are a big deal out here, right? We
yes.
don't have all y'all's rain and rivers and stuff. So there's an aquifer that's out under NTTR, out underneath the range, and people's water up there comes from this aquifer. And the aquifer is the equivalent, for those of folks that are out here on the West Coast, they'll get this. There's a whole bunch of states get their water from the Colorado River. The allotment that Southern Nevada gets out of the Colorado River, that aquifer has the equivalent amount of 16 years worth of water supply for us. So it's pretty significant.
Mm-hmm.
They've done testing on that well out there now, and they have found that some of the areas of that aquifer where some of the water comes from for folks is over 1 million times higher than EPA standards. For plutonium.
Mm-hmm.
Over 1 million times higher. They said it's not even cleanable. There's no economical way that you could possibly clean that water and make it useful again. And it migrates, not fast, but those bodies of water actually migrate and seep.
Yep.
And it's like, so that's awesome. What are you telling me now? That's where my water came from that we drank.
Yeah.
The water came from, for us, we look at it, we drank the water, we bathed in the water, our food's cooked in the water. The air we breathed was bad. The dirt we crawled in was bad.
Yeah. I'm going to post this comment from Jeff Tessman here, and then I got some questions to ask you. All right. He states that the VA in Fargo, North Dakota, aren't able to figure out his health troubles, and it's like hitting a brick wall. Yeah, I know what you're going through there, brother. Yeah. Took me 25 years to finally get my claim approved. So, but one thing, Jeff, I want you to get with Dave. I'm going to send some information to Dave for you concerning your breathing problems. There's an organization that will probably do some scans of your lungs for free, and it's a new scan. I was part of the testing for this new scan. We're trying to get the VA to use it to try to eliminate lung biopsies. This will tell exactly what's going on with your lungs. So I'm going to send Dave the information to give to you. All right. And I want you to contact this company to see if they can get you in to get this scan done for free. All right. Now.
Yeah. And Jeff brings up a point, and other people make this point. I talk to folks every day, literally every day, that we're uprange. And none of us regret the job we did. We're proud of what we did. We know how our little spot in the world made a difference. And so I don't want people thinking we're whining that we got screwed on this job. We did the cool kid stuff. We played with the cool kids' toys. We did stuff nobody else ever got to do. I mean, I'm 18 years old. I show up at Tonopah Test Range, and I get to sit on day one in a stealth fighter with one of the pilots up there talking to me about it. Nobody else in the world had ever seen this airplane. We really did do cool stuff. It's not about, I don't want anybody to think it's about regretting what we did. We did what we did, and we did it really, really well. And our pilots, what they had to go through to qualify to be up there, they were the very best of the best.
Yep.
Oh yeah. We don't regret the job, but the government needs to step up.
Yes.
And that's my goal, is to make them step up and do what they should do for the guys that gave so much.
Now, I worked with Congressman Amelia Sykes, who's my congresswoman, Congressman Dave Joyce, who used to be my congressman, but due to districting isn't anymore. And Senator Sherrod Brown. Matter of fact, I worked with all the congressmen from Ohio except for Jim Jordan and J.D. Vance. They're the only ones from Ohio who did not want to participate in this. One of the goals of my organization, Veterans Insurance Network, due to my brother Dennis taking his own life, who was a veteran, we're trying to get a permanent official National Veteran Suicide Awareness and Prevention Day in the month of September, which is National Suicide Awareness Month. Senator Sherrod Brown, Congresswoman Sykes, and Congressman Dave Joyce jointly wrote a resolution. The resolution got passed on September 30th, naming September 30th National Veteran Suicide Awareness Day, Awareness and Prevention Day for the month of September in 2023. We're working on the president trying to get to become permanent. He has to do it by executive order. I don't know why. One of the congressmen that actually signed on as a co-sponsor of this resolution in the House, you know very well. He's from Nevada, Congressman Amoti. So I thank him for signing on to that.
It's actually Amadei.
Amadei.
He was an Army JAG.
Yes.
So he's a vet as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the guy in Congress carrying our banner for us.
And how is that bill coming along?
My hope is we turned in some language Monday. With it being the first step is the acknowledgement that we exist and that our conditions are presumptive to exposure. And my hope is now that sometime in January, we actually have the bill back and that we can hold our press conference in DC after the Super Bowl.
Oh man, that'll work. That'll work.
So it'll be a party. I'm going to do some fundraising because we got to get some people out there.
Yes.
And, my whole job anymore is to raise money, to educate, and to find our folks. Yep. So everything I do is towards that end. But we're going to have a little party in DC when that thing hits.
Now, not only does Veteran Insurance Network is forming a network of smaller nonprofits, so a veteran no longer has to go to a nonprofit and get turned away by them because they don't service that generation or that type of veteran, to where that veteran at that nonprofit will know who to send that veteran to. Another thing that we're doing too is educating people on legislation and other veterans issues, and yours is one of them. We are forming a group to not only help you folks out, because you guys are doing fantastic. I mean,
I can't believe what's
short
happened.
amount of time that you've been together, the ground that you have gained is
phenomenal.
Yes, it's it's mind-blowing and awesome. But there's other bases out there that the DOD is stating that the contamination didn't make people sick.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, we're going to win this fight.
Yes.
And I pray to God that we get this done in 2024. And then my hope is that we take this experience and we go helping everybody else.
Yep. So some of these organizations, we're forming a group to start looking into helping all these other bases out, like Edwards, Fort Dix, Fort Hood.
The missile silo guys.
Yes, the missile silos guys as well. Another brother of mine worked in the silos. He was only in them for 4 years and then he got out. But still, the matter of fact, I gotta tell this story to you, Dave. I know I didn't tell this to you yet, but I came from a rather large family, and 3 of my older brothers joined the Air Force. 2 of them joined while they were, I think they joined to keep from getting drafted to go to Vietnam, even though they both ended up in Vietnam, but with the Air Force. So when I graduated from high school, or getting ready to graduate from high school, I was like, man, there's nothing in this town for me. I can't afford to go to college, so what am I going to do? I'm going to join the military. I'm going to join the Marines. Brought a Marine recruiter home with me one day, and my dad's sitting in the living room. He says, he excuses himself, says, I'll be right back. He goes out into the garage. I'm like, oh my God, what's my dad doing? Comes back with a baseball bat. He points it at the Marine recruiter, says, get the hell out of my house. So the Marine left. The very next day, my dad came with the Air Force recruiter and says, there you go. Sign right there. This is what you're going to do. So actually, I'm glad he did that because, Air Force treated me very, very good. I don't regret anything that, that I did or happened to me while I was in the military. It's an experience I'll never forget, and I'm proud of.
No, I look at my life as everything was a warm up to the day I joined the service.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that I have in my life goes back to being in the service. My friends, I mean, there isn't one day that goes by that I don't talk to guys, specifically the guys from uprange. There isn't. I look at that. That's when adult life started.
Yeah,
I don't regret it. I don't regret being uprange. I mean, it was a while. Somebody made a comment on the chat here about what a great experience it truly was, and it truly was.
Yep, I think it's this one right here. It's from Jeff Tessman.
Yeah,
he doesn't regret it at all, and honor and privilege. I agree. My whole entire military career, I was honored to be able to serve. And now it's turned into a different type of fighting, and just like your little slogan that's scrolling down on the bottom, we will win.
Yeah, you will.
Yep. And
whether they like it or not.
That's right. I know you've met Mandy Fight from Hawaii.
Yeah, she's pretty kick ass.
Yes. And for those, let me somebody else just posted something.
Yeah, what she's done.
Yeah, and she's still active duty. They just sent her to Virginia.
Do you know, I know she was up for promotion. Do you know if she got it?
No, they sent her to Virginia, and they're trying to medically process her out, I do believe. She's 2 years away from retirement. So I think what's going to happen is they'll end up letting her retire in 2 years. And but she was saying too that she's been getting a lot of emails and messages from people from other bases as well, asking if she can help them as well. So that's why I think we're going to form this group and say, and tell the DOD enough's enough. We busted our asses. We risked our lives. We risked our families' lives for jobs you needed done. We did those jobs. We followed our oath. We did what we promised we would do. Now it's time for them to promise what they promised us. And it's time for them to quit the lies, to quit the gaslighting. And it's time to take care of us. And for your group, it's time for them to say, hey, yes, they were there. Yes, give them the health care that they deserve. Give them the health care they earned. Hell, they've been taking care. Well, it's the DOE that's been taking care of the civilians, correct?
Yeah, hold on. I'm asking somebody a question.
Okay.
Hold on, somebody else that's listening just sent me a pretty long message, and I want to read it, but not without
Okay.
permission. But yeah, I mean, I've learned so much. So much of it's disappointing.
Yes.
What I thought I was researching when I started all this, I didn't get the answer I thought I would get.
Mm-hmm.
I got an answer that was really actually far worse. You know, when I started this, I thought it was just cops that were sick.
Mm-mm.
And it's, like I said before, the pilots and mechanics, it's everybody. And some guys, you know, I just look at what's happened with me. And sometimes you get kind of put in check about what the hell you whining for.
Yeah.
All right. I got permission to read it.
Okay.
This gives you an idea. This is from one of our officers. Okay. Um, Dave also noted one of our pilots full blown leukemia about 2 years ago post TTR. Another one testicular cancer while at TTR. One early heart attack and died in his early 40s. Another heart attack in his 40s. There is also a pilot's cancer, which I've heard of, probably considered considerably higher, but he recorded the data. A lot of them have leukemia. This guy is one of our pilots. Thanks for taking this on. Well, yeah. So the rest of this stuff's on him, him personal, but they have issues.
Mm-hmm.
You know this, and it's really quite amazing. I got, when I told you I did that first press release.
Yes.
So we had a guy when he first got up there who was a lieutenant colonel, and then he became full bird colonel, and he became the wing commander towards the end of my tenure when I was leaving. And he went off, became a 3-star general, was the general over the Kosovo Air War, had quite the career, and he died of cancer. And his daughter called me up, and she was having a conversation with me, and then not 5 minutes after, she asked that I would post something on there saying, "Hi, I don't want to blow her up. She's actually active duty." But she says, "Please send my regards to everyone." And Colonel Robinson, who was our DCM deputy commander for minutes when I was up there, she was one of my dad's friends, and send him a note too if you know how to get a hold of him. So I did. Then somebody calls me up and says, "Do you know who you just talked to?" And I'm like, "I talked to the colonel's daughter." And then he told me who the colonel's daughter was, and I was like, "Holy crap!" She's had a very, very successful career. But what amazed me, she said her dad died of cancer, and she started to describe it, and I knew exactly what cancer it was because some family history with it, and from people that I've talked to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very rare cancer. It's called GIST, gastrointestinal stromal tumor. And it's one of those cancers that if you get like chemotherapy, chemo does the opposite. Instead of starting to kill it, it triggers it. So it's a tough one. And he died from it. And she says, the Air Force told us that my dad died of this because of his exposure to Agent Orange. And she goes, he was a fighter pilot flying out of the Philippines. He wasn't down there on the ground getting sprayed with Agent Orange. She goes, we've always believed that it was because of his time uprange. And now I'm 100% certain it's true, because there's other guys that have had the same exact cancer. And it really amazes me because it's very indiscriminate, and the stuff that people have gone through, like when you get this phone call of somebody you didn't realize, I
Mm-hmm.
had no idea why. I didn't even know. Let me take that back. I knew he had died, but I had no idea why. And she tells me, and I'm like, holy crap, you would think You don't know what to think. But when you're sitting there, you're not a big unit, and you're sitting there going that hundreds of your guys have died. And you're a little spot in the desert. I don't want, my thing is, and I get it all the time from people, and thanks to for just sharing that so that people could hear. But, you just don't think that the military is going to have you stationed out in Nevada. You're going to be out in the desert. You went to Desert Storm. That's a little bit different environment. There's a risk there that we accept. There's a risk that we don't accept, but you think you're going out to the desert in Nevada. What could be bad there? I'm not going to send you in somewhere like that, and it's going to be a problem. You find out you're entirely wrong. And, and then you start talking to other people and you hear their stories, and you're just like, it's like, holy shit. It's pretty incredible, but it's also motivating, and we're blessed. We've got great guys, and they all don't know it. So I'll share it now. They're getting ready to get hit up with another financial thing because we've got to raise a bunch of money. You're going to be there when we go to DC. That's our thing. We got Disabled American Veterans says we can't officially do anything yet because the bill's not out and we don't support it, but we'd really like to speak at your thing. And I'm like, no worries. Everybody that wants to show up, we want to have a party. We want to get people's attention. That says, hey, there's this little group stationed out in the desert.
Here on the screen. There we go. Didn't mean to cut you off, brother, but got to put the information up there so people can get in contact with you guys, see how they can.
Go to our website. Our website's amazing.
Yes, it is.
The graphics and stuff that we have on there, it's amazing. And no, I didn't do it. No, I had nothing to do with doing it because we have people a lot smarter than me that's helping us, truly making us look smart. But the website's awesome. We have fundraisers. There's a little donate button. Don't hold. Feel free to click that.
Yep.
But it gives us the ability so that I can and others, we can travel to DC. We can knock on doors, which we've been doing. We educate people. I speak at least once a week somewhere. I've traveled to speak. I've got some other engagements that I think are coming up that I'm going to get to go speak in other places. But, every time I speak, we find somebody else. Or we find the widow or the son or daughter of somebody who passed, and that's what we have to do.
Yeah, I find that everywhere I go to speak too, be it for the PACT Act or veteran suicide prevention, I'm always finding somebody that's affected by the PACT Act and needs help. And
and the thing that gets me, like Colonel Wyrick was on here. His note, if you saw it in there, was never connected all the folks with the heart attacks to being on the site until tonight. When we were at our last reunion, we went back. I know you've been there. The Air Force Museum back at Wright Pat.
Mm-hmm.
I had not been there before, and that's where our reunion was. So we all go back there, and one of the guys sitting, my wife and I we had a private room, if you will, that the hotel had set up for us during our reunion. And guy was like, man, I feel really bad for you guys. I'm just thankful I don't have any problems. And so we started talking to him, and he didn't think he had any problems. So we started talking to him. It's like, you don't have tumors, no breathing problems. And his wife looks at him. Yeah, he's got tumors all over his arm and back. And there's probably 40 of us in the room, something like that, 35 of us in the room. And 30 of the guys in there had the thing. And they're so crazy about those tumors, and this, but the rate of occurrence on these things is 1 per 1,000 people.
Yeah, and almost
we're running 75%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's 1 per 1,000 people. We had one of the guys knows a physicist whose specialty is what radioactivity does to the human body. And I talked to the guy, and he's from a different planet, kind of smart. And he looked at what the odds were of somebody to be exposed to all these different types of radiation and some of the other contaminants that we could talk about. And, what's the likelihood of that mix? And what's the likelihood of all these guys having just the tumors? And he goes, it's not 1 in a million that somebody has a chance of getting that. It's 1 in a million that somebody wouldn't get it.
Yeah.
He goes, it's exactly the opposite. He goes, that's the numerical odds for somebody to walk out of there and not have problems. And that comes from a PhD physicist who has fellowships and all kinds of stuff. I can't even spell the honors that he's been given, and that's what he said. He goes, it's 1 in a million that somebody could walk out of there and not have a problem.
Yeah. Actually, we're kind of a little overtime, but that's good because we're getting information out to people here. First, let's put this up real quick. People at Veterans Insurance Network, man, we're very honored that you were on again, Dave, and we're going to bring you on again a little bit further on down the road as it gets closer to that bill.
I can't wait.
We're
getting close,
and we don't have to wait for the bill. Veterans Insurance Network is already backing you guys up. We're going to help you out as much as we can. And I can't wait till that bill's finally on the floor and everything. And towards the end of the show, I always do this in memory of my brother Dennis. 988, folks. You don't even need to be wanting to harm yourself, but if you are in the need that you think you need to speak to somebody right now to keep you from getting to that level, 988 press 1, the new veteran crisis line. You are now guaranteed to get a licensed therapist on the line with you right away. I don't know, Dave, if you've or anybody in the audience has seen this video where a cop pulls up on a pickup truck that's on the side of a highway, and the cop has his hand on his gun and he's walking up to the truck, and you can hear the person inside the truck just bawling their eyes out. Cop is on the passenger side, and he peeks into the truck and says, "What's going on?" And all you could hear is somebody going, "I'm on the crisis line with the VA." And the cop immediately took his hand off his gun and says, "Brother, I got your back." That veteran got very lucky that night because that video was taken before the 988 number came out. So he was able to get a live human being on the line right away. Now you're guaranteed to get one right away. 2, he had a compassionate cop. Dave, I know you're a cop. Most everybody in the audience is a cop. You have to make sure you guys you're protecting yourself because you don't know what type of situation you're walking into. Thank God that cop understood right away once that veteran stated that he was on the crisis line. So the sad part about that video, and I know I hope you've all seen it. If not, Google it because it's going to touch you. The police officer says, "Sir, young man, let me go ahead and call an ambulance for you. Let's get you to the hospital. You can stay on the line. You can stay on the phone with them while you're in the ambulance, but let's get you to the hospital. They'll take very good care of you there." First words out of veteran's mouth says, "No, I cannot afford it." That's sad.
Yep.
That he's saying, "I can't afford an ambulance ride." Shouldn't have to worry about it. But see, that's why there's this new law. Well, new program by the VA. Started January 17th of last year. Matter of fact, it was my birthday when it started.
You're just looking for birthday cards. That's why you threw that out there.
That's right. Hey, I'm turning 60, man. I need a little encouragement.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I'm an old man. But the new program the VA has is, doesn't matter if you're in the VA system or not, folks. If you feel like you're going to hurt yourself, You can go into any medical facility in this country and the VA will pick up the tab. There are some stipulations like on how long you can stay in the hospital and how much care you get after you get out, but it's substantial. So
It's good.
yes, so you don't even need to be in the VA system, and the VA is going to pick up the tab from now on. And I got to put this last few comments up here real quick. One is from actually the president of my board, Harry Petaway, and thanking us for sharing all this information. Harry went to high school with my wife, and Harry's got his own little podcast, and he invited me on because he was following my wife on Facebook and saw some of the stuff that I was doing prior to you and I meeting, and had me on, and it was a good time. And so I asked him to be on the board, and he said yes, thank God. But I can't remember, Jeff. I can't remember what. Oh, this was about that video. Yeah, sad but true that veteran had said he couldn't afford the ambulance, and then Harry also on the video. Suicidal failure. Yes, I agree with you, Harry. But we're working on getting that taken care of. And Dave, I love you, brother.
Thanks, man. Same to you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Every time
on.
we talk, we get to find somebody else so we can help somebody else.
I think yeah, good audience members, a lot of good comments tonight. I know once this hits social media, especially on Apple and Spotify and all them, the audio will be available on those. So those of you who are listening to the audio, all the links will be in the description. So everything will be on there. And you're welcome, Dave Grace, whoever Dave Grace is.
He's one of ours.
Yes. All right.
I found out this is I'm not a techie, but it said I could stream it on Facebook, so that's what I did.
Yeah, you did. Yes. Yep. Because I can tell. Because I don't know if you can see the chat, right?
Yeah.
And it next to some of your folks, it says paired. That's from your link that you posted.
That's cool.
Yes.
Well, but I got to get on to my next board meeting.
Yes, you do. And folks, next week we're going to have the director of the VFW home on, and we'll talk about the VFW home. And I think I'm going to take a break on the 29th, since it's in between Christmas and New Year's, or the 27th. Just so, because the holidays take a beating on me physically. So we'll probably take a break that day. If not, I will post on who will be there. And Dave, let me know when that bill's ready, and God, we're gonna blast it all over the place, man.
All right, man. Thank you. God bless.
Bless you too, bro.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too. And we'll see y'all next week.